Out of all movies that have come out this year, or at least this summer, let me tell you of a movie that you actually should see. Gran Turismo. Good morrow, everybody. So, to all my gamers out there, have you ever thought that if I'm good at playing this video game, then why can't I just do it in real life? Well, that's pretty much what this movie's about. Now, I've done about a bunch of takes involving the description of this movie, so I'm going to give you just the basics. A gamer is given the opportunity to be represented by PlayStation and drive a real race car in a series of races to see who comes out as top dog. That's all it is. What I liked about this movie was the story. I will admit that the whole premise about gamers actually operating real race cars is a bit goofy, but it's a real underdog story. Our main character, Yan, who is put through like an academy with a bunch of other racers, comes out as top dog, and at the beginning of all his races, doesn't do very well at all. But the more races that he does, he builds up more credibility and moves up in rank in every race. Nobody believes in this kid at all. The executive who is behind this whole thing, he doesn't believe in him. His pit crew doesn't believe in him. The only person who sort of believes in him, who kind of has his back, is his mentor, Jack Salter, who was used to be race car driver, but now is kind of like a guy who just operates on race cars instead of actually drives cars on his own. There are some very well-known actors in this movie. Jaimin Hansu, you know, the guy from, everything these days. This dude works just as hard as Samuel L. Jackson. Orlando Bloom, I thought Orlando Bloom was dead. David Harbour is in this movie. From Stranger Things, who plays the sheriff. David Harbour really plays as like a guy who doesn't believe in this program at all. Kind of like us looking in this movie. This is ridiculous. Kids who are operating race cars, who drive video games, like how are these kids qualified to drive race cars just because they can play a video game really well? Over time, he's more of like kind of like the Yoda character. He doesn't believe in Yan at all, who is the main character. But over time develops a bond with this guy, and they really become a team. It's a real underdog story. I didn't realize that it was based off a true story also, which is really cool. What I didn't like is that there was a love interest in this movie. Some of them work, but in this movie, not really. You could have just focused on Yan and Jack and their development and all the races, and it would have been fine. They didn't do a very good job of promoting this movie. I guess, when you're going up against like Barbie and Oppenheimer, it's kind of hard to promote a movie and have people watch it, but this was a solid movie. All movies are going to be the same after a while. It's just the complexities that you throw into the movie that make it different. Or it would just be carbon copies. It's an underdog story, but it's based off of kids who play video games and are actually able to drive race cars. It's got a lot of heart in it. I almost teared up at the end because Yan's father, who didn't believe in him at all at the beginning of this movie, really warms up and is proud of his son for what he's accomplished. Because the whole time Yan is like, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do, and his dad's like, you need to be more practical about what you want to do with your life, which I think a lot of people can really relate to. So if I were to rate this movie, honestly, I would give it about maybe a 7.5 or 8 out of 10. I thought it had a lot of heart. It had family element to it. I love seeing men as positive influences in a movie and not just as a background character or an idiot, which I think we've seen a lot of these days. All in all, I would give this movie about an 8 out of 10. I really think that people should see this movie.